Welcome to MFL at Romarsh Community School. So, MFL in Year 9, you will know that so far the majority of students have completed 2 years of French already, which you would have done in Year 7 and Year 8. This year you have studied 2 languages and you'll have an equal number of weeks studying Spanish and German. The reasons why we are doing this is to make sure that you have a broad and balanced curriculum, and also to help you choose which language you think that you would like to continue doing into Year 10 and Year 11, so that you've had a taster of each of them. Now, as you know, this is the MFL team, our MFL teachers. Now, you'll all know us for teaching French, but did you also know that we teach other languages too? Here are some reasons why studying a foreign language would be beneficial for your future. Latest research shows that 75% of employers want language skills. Having a language can increase your salary by up to an extra £1,000 a month, and the main demand is still for European languages. 50% of employers want French, 49% German, 41% Spanish, and there's also an increasing interest in Mandarin and Cantonese. So what jobs could I get by studying MFL? Scientific research analyzer, a coach or football manager, fashion designer, interpreting, law, paramedic, journalism, finance, hospitality, armed forces, gaming translator, sports personality, engineering, translation, motor industry, healthcare, teaching, travel and tourism, police. The list is endless. Okay, so where have languages taken me in my life? I started learning Spanish at Year 7 at Wickersley School and Sports College, and then I started French in Year 8. Languages really brought me out of my shell. I became much more confident in myself. They further enhanced my love of art, music and travelling, and once my skills had developed. I studied French and Spanish at the University of Leicester, and in my 3rd year at university, I studied at the University of Lyon and then Granada in the south of Spain. After university, I lived and worked in Canada for a year, and speaking an additional language or 2 additional languages made it much easier for me to get a job and settle. Living abroad for a whole year was an amazing opportunity and really shaped the person that I am today.
So, you'll have just heard Mrs. Dodd speaking about the reasons as to why you should all be learning a language, but I'm going to focus mainly on the reasons as to why we should all be learning French. Now, you'll see some facts on the screen there about French, alongside English, being the only language spoken on all continents, and the fact that it's the official language of 32 states and governments. So you all know the benefits of learning a language because Ms. Dodd has just spoken through them. But I want to focus mainly on French culture. And one of the main things you want to learn, is alongside obviously being able to listen to, understand and read French, is learning about the culture of France and French-speaking countries as well. So we'll learn a lot about Bastille Day, which is on July the 14th, and history regarding that. We'll look at the Festival de Cannes, the world-famous film festival. Look at several of different cuisine from France, the croissants. We'll learn about la chandeleur, and also the history of some different regions in France, because we know that learning a language, as Frantz Fanon said, to speak a language is taking a world and a culture, so it's impossible to learn a language without also thinking about the culture that runs alongside it as well. Now, as for my Spanish journey, so I started learning French in Year 7 at WAFCOMP and then continued learning Spanish then in Year 8. I enjoyed learning languages whilst I was at school and I had a few different trips which I went on. For example, I went to Sevilla when I was at school, and also, believe it or not, I won a raffle when I was in Year 12, which then led to me going to Salamanca on a trip for 2 weeks, all paid for, which is absolutely incredible. From those opportunities, I then decided to continue and do French and Spanish at the University of Leeds. And whilst I was there, in my 3rd year at university, I went on a year abroad to Madrid, and I worked in the EAS Virgen de la Paloma, which was a secondary school and a college, and I was there working as an English language assistant. While I was there, it wasn't just about working while I was over there, it was also about taking part in the Spanish culture as well. And I joined a local football team, Football Club Británico de Madrid, and we played a lot of games against local teams. So that was a really good way of meeting people from Madrid and also getting used to life in Madrid as well. I also played against different teams, and we travelled around as well. So we travelled to Barcelona, to Granada, lots of different places across Spain. After going to university, so once I graduated, I worked as a translator for a few years, but then decided to become a teacher because I felt that languages were a greatly underappreciated skill and they needed to be bigged up a lot more in our current world.
So you've just heard Mr. Bartle speaking about his language journey and why you should learn French. I'm going to focus now on why it's worthwhile to learn German. So on the screen now, you'll be able to see some facts. So German is the most widely spoken language in Europe. It's not just Germany where it's spoken. You've got Austria, Switzerland, parts of France, Belgium as well. Not only that, it is the second most understood language in Europe, particularly in Eastern and Central Europe. And German has a great tradition and history with things, poets, thinkers, engineers, scientists, and it really is useful to know German if you go on to study history or science to access those materials. And it's the most commonly used language in science, as I just mentioned, after English. Most famous inventions in chemistry and physics were done by Germans, for example, Albert Einstein. And Germany is the richest and has the largest economy in Europe, large industrial sector, so it's very useful for you to learn if you want a job later to do with commerce and trading. And it is one of the most sought-after languages for UK employers who trade with Europe. And not only that, Germany is a very fun, dynamic and progressive society, and by learning German you'll be able to appreciate its culture in greater detail, its history, and so on. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about where languages have taken me and in my life. So I actually started learning French at year 9 at Tuxford Comprehensive School. French was the only language that was offered at the time, and I really enjoyed it and wanted to learn more languages. So when I went to university at Sheffield, I decided to take German beginners, and initially I'd also took Russian as a beginner's language, but I later changed that to Italian. Really enjoyed it and I found that having French was a very good introduction to learning other languages, and really got on with German. After my first year of university, I won a competition and received a scholarship from the DAAD to go and live in Berlin for 6 weeks in the summer. And in the second year of my university, I used my German language skills to go and work in Vienna, Austria, at a summer camp for teaching German and English to children there. Whilst I was at university, on my third year, I went to a year abroad. So first part, I went to Bordeaux in south of France, and then I went to Freiburg and Breisgau in southwestern Germany. At Bordeaux, I studied at the University Montaigne-Montesquieu, and during that time I took courses, French history, literature, French and German translation. I also, at the time at university, was very into boxing, did a few competitions at the UK, and I continued that in France, and I actually found that the best way to continue learning French, and I actually learned more in French from that than some of my university courses. Then in Germany, I still studied at university, and I learnt German, Italian and Turkish, all taught in German. And after university, went straight into training to become a teacher, as I think the problem in the UK, it's such a shame that most schools only offer one language, and it's easier to start at a young age because one language can soon become many.
Hi, my name is Mr. Elson. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my language journey. I started learning French and German at Boston Grammar School, and fortunately I had a very inspirational language teacher called Mr. Anderson. He taught us in a whole new way, which meant we talked and spoke languages much more than had been previously done. And he encouraged me in my language learning, and I'm fortunately still in contact with him today. We even had our own German Schuhplattler dance group. Schuhplattler is a traditional German dance involving traditional German costume. I didn't take part in that, but I know the group went on to appear on Blue Peter and even Britain's Got Talent. Later, I went on with several of my contemporaries to the University of Manchester, where I first started studying French and history. But my feeling for languages grew there, and I was drawn towards languages rather than history. I ended up doing a swap, history for German, and I also learned a little bit of Portuguese. Whilst I was at university, I spent my year abroad in a town called Saintes in southwestern France. It was the birthplace of Monsieur Guillotin, the inventor of the famous French guillotine. But fortunately, my school where I taught was named after Bernard Palissy, another famous son who was a revolutionary inventor of ceramics. While I was there, I studied part-time at Poitiers University too. Later, I went on to spend some time in Germany in a place called Schwäbisch Gmünd, which is quite a beautiful town near Stuttgart. And I worked with some apprentices at Zahnradfabrik, who are a component manufacturer for Porsche and other major car manufacturers in Germany. I've used my languages travelling all over Europe, from Portugal through Spain, all the way through Ireland and Eastern Europe too. And what I found is that where French couldn't help me, German could. And they're a great combination to learn together, or indeed separately. Where would my favourite place to use my languages be, to be honest? My favourite place is the Baltic coast of Germany, relaxing on a strandkorb.
So why should you learn Spanish? There are more than 530 million people around the world who speak the Spanish language. This includes native speakers in over 20 countries, so people who have Spanish as their first language, and non-native speakers, people who have learnt Spanish as an additional language, like me, Mrs. Dodds and Mr. Bartle. Imagine being able to communicate with that many people across the world. It's the fourth most spoken language in the world, after English, Mandarin and Hindi, and it's the second most spoken European language after English. According to experts, by 2050, 10% of the world population will be speaking Spanish, an estimated 750 million speakers of Spanish. Don't you want to be part of that number? A great advantage of choosing Spanish is that it's a phonetic language, meaning it's much easier to pronounce. You pronounce words pretty much how they're spelt, so speaking is a doddle with lots of practice. For me, the best part of the Spanish language is the art and culture that comes with it. It's fun, interesting and diverse. Not only do you have Spain with its delicious food like paella and tortilla española, exciting traditions and festivals like La Feria de Abril and La Tomatina, and dancers like flamenco, but you also have the rich history and culture of the countries in Latin America. Learning Spanish is not just about learning a language. You'll also learn about people and other ways of life. You'll find there is so much beauty and interest in the world, and you can see it if you want to. I studied Spanish at school from year 7 and chose it at GCSE, mainly because it was a subject I enjoyed and my teacher was really inspiring. I then went on to do it at A-level at college in Sheffield, along with English language and literature. I decided to do a degree in Spanish at the University of Hull, and I also did a certificate in teaching English to speakers of other languages. I also did a year of Italian and 2 years of French. I just love languages. During my 3rd year at uni, I did a year abroad. So in the summer, I worked in a youth hostel in La Clusaz in the French Alps near Annecy. The scenery was breathtaking. I've never been anywhere so beautiful. Then for the rest of my year abroad, I taught English in a primary school in Cordoba in Andalusia, the southern region of Spain. It was hot, hot, hot. The hottest inland city in Spain, and only 40 minutes away by train from Seville, I fell in love with Cordoba. The scenery and architecture was stunning, and the city is steeped in history and multiple cultures. After uni, I trained to become a teacher at Sheffield Hallam University. I always knew I wanted to teach languages and give young people the opportunities I have had. Not enough people speak a language in the UK, and I think they're so important in today's world.
So here's what else we do in languages. As the MFL department, we are lucky that we have the opportunity to bring other countries to you at Romarsh. So where will languages take you in your future?